Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to AMC Movie Talk. Movie Talk for movie fans, the best damn movie-related show on the internet. My name is John Campea. I'm the editor-in-chief of AMC Movie News, and I'm so glad to see you today because I almost didn't see you today. Now, you might be looking around saying, hey, John, you're in the Studio B. You're in the studio where you do mailbag. Why are you doing Movie Talk from here when you got that shiny new studio? Well, funny story. I'm going to give you a little bit of background. Here's how a typical day at AMC Movie News goes, okay? Every morning, I start working at 5. I start writing the show notes for AMC Movie Talk. And because the show notes have to be out by 8 a.m. to go to all the staff so they know what's going on with the show that day. And then I also have to write the tech notes. And then after that, we start putting together the graphics and the sidebars. And then I start researching what I'm going to say about the topics, all that kind of stuff. And then I have to get over to the studio and blah, 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 blah. Long the story of it is, then we do the show, we leave, all that kind of stuff. Well, today we did the show. And it was like any other day. And I'm going to share with you just a little clip of today's show that we did. And you'll kind of figure out why. We had a bit of a technical glitch. So right now here, I'm going to share with you our show today, and you'll be able to figure out why we did so. So this is from earlier this morning. Take a look.
Joining us, as always, is AMC Movie News Senior Editor, Mr. John Campea.
Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the show, coming to you from our new digs here at the Stream Studios in Hollywood.
So, as you can see, we had some audio issues rendering the show completely unusable today. My apologies for that. It wasn't Dennis's fault. It wasn't really anybody's fault. It was just a technical glitch. I won't bore you with all the details, but we ended up having a completely unusable show. So, instead of leaving you guys in the lurch, I decided, you know what, screw this. We're going to do movie news today, even if it's just me. So hang on to your butts, everybody. Let's get into the movie news for today, all right? So we're going to start with this. Variety magazine is reporting that the two main frontrunners for the upcoming Marvel film AntMan are Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Paul Rudd. According to the report, both Rudd and Levitt are each meeting with Marvel one more time before a decision is made. However, the article in Variety also points out that another name could be chosen as well. Levitt can currently be seen in AMC theaters in the film Don John, and Paul Rudd will next be seen in Anchorman 2. So here we have Variety reporting that we have a couple of guys that are the front runners. Now, I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I still personally believe that Ant-Man is already cast, and I believe he's been cast for a little while. Now, that being said, now I've got nothing to back that up with. I'm just giving you my opinion. Now, that being said, Variety is a very reputable source. And so let's go on the assumption for a second that the report and the information they're getting is totally correct. That it has come down to Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Paul Rudd. Now, if those are the two guys that this has come down to for Ant-Man, who should they pick? The first thing that jumps out to me about this particular choice is that normally a studio gets a picture of what they want in that character. And that'll include sex, age, race, certain characteristics and features. And then they'll go out and try to get actors to fit that mold. I find it very interesting that there's like 10, 15 years age difference between these two guys that they say this role is down to. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Paul Rudd, two very different dudes. So, I mean, clearly Marvel doesn't have exactly laser focus on their casting decisions right now. They're just trying to get a good person in, and that's fine. Now, if it is down between these two, I was asking myself, well, then who would I pick? If I was the executive studio, if I'm Kevin Feige, and I got to pick between Joseph Gordon-Levitt or Paul Rudd for this role, well, hear me out here. On the surface, my first thing is to go Joseph Gordon-Levitt. The guy can do anything and everything. He can do no wrong. He's multi-talented in drama, in comedy. He can sing, he can dance. We've seen him do it at the Oscars. And as it turns out, he can even direct. If you've seen Don John, you know what I'm talking about. But at the same time, I really stopped to think, Paul Rudd. You know what? When you think about Pym, who is Ant-Man, Paul Rudd could be a really good fit for that. Now, if you're going to ask me, who is the overall better actor? I'm going to say Joseph Gordon-Levitt. The overall. I'll take Rudd in comedy. But overall, I think Joseph Gordon-Levitt is the better actor. But if we're going to start talking about fit, what is the best fit for a Pym? You know what? I never would have thought of Paul Rudd. But now that they brought the name up, I can totally see Paul Rudd doing that. And Paul Rudd is exceptionally good too at reactionary humor, which just so happens to be director Edgar Wright's real strong suit, which is a real British thing. I think he would work great with Edgar Wright. I think he'd be a magnificent fit. I think he'd bring some really good comedic timing to it as well. I think he'd be great. Now, this is a no-lose situation. If this report is correct, and we don't know 100% sure that the report is correct, but if the report is correct, then this is a no-lose situation for fans. Because if they go with a Joseph Gordon-Levitt, fantastic. We'll all be happy. I mean, who among us wouldn't be happy to hear that Joseph Gordon-Levitt is playing Ant-Man? Obviously, we all would. But at the same time, I think we win if Paul Rudd gets cast. I really think this is a great fit, even though it's a name I wouldn't have thought of before. So now remember, the report also said that, hey, it could be somebody else, which is kind of Variety covering their butts in case they announce tomorrow that it's, somebody else completely. Ryan Gosling is going to be Ant-Man. So they're covering their butts when they're saying that. So it could be somebody else. But in this report, as a fan, I am encouraged. All right, let's move on to the next topic today. And the next topic is this. Despite the initial behind-the-scenes drama with the next Jurassic Park film, Jurassic World, it seems everything is now moving at full steam ahead. According to reports, the film has just signed Iron Man 3 child actor Ty Simpkins in one of the lead roles. The report also claims that New Girl star Jake Johnson and Ron Howard's daughter, Bryce Dallas Howard, are in negotiations for the lead roles as well. Now, when we look at this type of casting, look, I got to tell you right off the top of my head, this Ty Simpkins is great. He's a great child actor. I'm going to go out. I don't think I've seen a child actor this good since Dakota Fanning was actually a child actor. This kid is great. And look, I know a lot of people have issues with Iron Man, or Iron Man 3, I should say. And I'm not here to start a new debate about Iron Man 3, but I'm going to say this. I loved every single second that this kid was on screen with Robert Downey Jr. I thought the chemistry between Robert Downey Jr. and this Ty Simpkins kid was fantastic. He played a great, almost deadpan straight man to Tony Stark. I mean, Stark's weird idiosyncrasies played by Robert Downey Jr. I don't think would have came off nearly as well if it wasn't for the way that this Simpkins kid played it too. I remember also when I was at the Iron Man 3 world premiere, I was walking down the red carpet literally about 5 feet behind Robert Downey Jr. He showed up like 1 minute before I did. And we're walking down the carpet and I could hear him say to one of his handlers, "Hey, where's Ty? Where's Ty?" And I think that says something neat, that the chemistry between these two guys, this man and this child actor, was so great that he gets to the red carpet and he just wants to find this kid. I think that's really cool. As far as Jake Johnson goes, I was late coming to the New Girl party, but I caught up on the show. And you know what? I count myself now as a big fan of New Girl. I think it's a really funny show. And Jake Johnson is one of the main reasons why. Now, I haven't seen Jake in enough to adequately know if I'm a big fan of Jake Johnson or if I'm just a big fan of the character he plays in New Girl. I have to see him in more. But I still think this would be a very interesting choice to see him in Jurassic Park. And as far as Bryce Dallas Howard goes, she's amazing. If you've never seen The Help, her character in The Help is one of these multi-layered characters. Like, she, in all due respect, she's the villain in many ways. But she completely doesn't see herself that way. She thinks she's the good guy. And there's this magnificent scene where she's horribly racist, but she's talking to one of her friends and saying, there are real racists out there. So she doesn't, it's just so many different layers of that character, and she plays it brilliantly. I love her whenever I see her on screen, just about anything. So I love seeing her in it. So overall, I think this is pretty good news. All right, let's move on to the next story. The next story revolves around The Rock. Dwayne Johnson is set to star in the upcoming earthquake disaster movie, San Andreas. Johnson will be joined by his Journey to the Mysterious Island director, Brad Peyton, on the film, which they've worked together before, so that's always good. The story is set after a devastating earthquake hits California and centers on a man on a perilous trip across the state to rescue his estranged daughter. San Andreas were aimed to hit AMC theaters in 2015. I often say that it is never a mistake to add The Rock to a movie. As you can see, I've got in the sidebar there, Rockquake. It's never a mistake to have The Rock. But the interesting thing about Dwayne Johnson is this. A few years ago, all The Rock brought to a role, and all we needed him to bring to a role, was this 100% pure, unfiltered, liquid charisma that he would bring to a screen, right? So he would come into a movie and just bring this undeniable magnetic charisma. And we're instantly drawn to him. Even if the movie was terrible, we're drawn to him because this is incredible charisma. Not so much in the way of acting chops. But you know what? In the last couple of years, when you look at films like Pain and Gain, and in particular Snitch, The Rock has actually evolved into a legit actor. Is he one of the top 20 actors in the world? No. Is he ever going to get an Academy Award nomination? No. But he's been in this business long enough now, and he's done it for so long and been in so many films and been learning from all the right people and taking all the right classes and all this kind of stuff that now you can actually sit back, and I'll argue with you about this if you want to try to put up a fight, that in the last couple of years, we've seen Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson turn from just pure charisma to actually a legitimate actor. He can act. Is he the magnificent actor, a Shakespearean level actor? No, he's not there. But the dude's a legitimate actor. So let's get back to the movie now that I'm calling Rockquake, which is really called San Andreas. So the first question that comes to my mind when I see that The Rock is going to be starring in this earthquake disaster adventure is, who does The Rock punch in the face? I mean, who does The Rock fight in an earthquake disaster? Does he like grab hold of the split in the earth that's opening up and with his massive arms and start pulling the earth back together? Does he combat the earthquake? I mean, I don't know what he's going to do, but I think it sounds like a fun popcorn kind of film. Probably a film that's not going to call on his newly acquired acting skills. Just go back to being The Rock for this movie, Rock, and I think everything's going to be okay. All right, let's move on to the next topic here, and I like this one. It revolves around Horrible Bosses 2. And here's the story here. So Horrible Bosses 2 has found its new horrible boss. According to a report, Star Trek star Chris Pine will play half of a father and son duo who steal the main character's idea for a new invention. Rumors circulated a little while ago, and they have since been debunked, that Pine was going to be joined by two-time Academy Award winner Christoph Waltz as his father. How great would that have been? But the rumor, as I said, has since been debunked. Chris Pine joins the original Horrible Bosses stars Jason Bateman, Jason Sudeikis, and Charlie Day, and Jamie Foxx. Horrible Bosses 2 hits AMC theaters everywhere on November 26, 2014. And, you know, I'm going to tell you right now, I love this move. I really do. Number one, for Chris Pine, I think this guy's a terrific talent. I really do. For Chris Pine, I think this is a great move, because we've never really seen him in a popular scale in this type of a role, being one of the horrible bosses. And I think Kevin Spacey, Jennifer Aniston, Colin Farrell did such a great job with their boss's role. I think playing that kind of a role is going to be great for Chris Pine. I think this is a great move for him. And seeing this kind of a straight up comedy too is going to be great. At the same time, I think this is great for the movie because I think, as I said before, Chris Pine is a terrific talent. I think this is a great fit. I think this is going to work really well. So yeah, overall, I think this is terrific news. I do wish, however, though, that Christoph Waltz was playing his dad. How great would that have been? Christoph Waltz just makes anything he's in better. Even he couldn't save the horrible Three Musketeers. But aside from that, he can make any movie he's in even better. So yeah, it's good stuff. All right. This next story. Captain Phillips producer Scott Rudin has reportedly just secured the film rights to the Sherry Pink book 5 Days at Memorial. Now, the film takes place at the Memorial Medical Center after Katrina struck and the flood waters rose, the power failed, and the heat climbed. Exhausted caregivers choose to designate certain patients last for rescue. Months later, several health professionals faced criminal allegations that they deliberately injected numerous patients with drugs to hasten their deaths. 5 Days at Memorial, the culmination of 6 years of reporting, unspools the mystery of what happened in those days, bringing the reader into the hospital fighting for its life and into a conversation about the most terrifying form of healthcare rationing. This is one of those types of sounding films that I think just sounds dynamic. I am a big fan. Now, while it sounds like it's going to be very hard to watch, I think the fact that it's hard to watch is why I'm looking forward to it so much. I love movies that put us as viewers in uncomfortable situations that force us to examine ourselves and say, what would I do? And let's face it, as a human race, we're pretty pathetic sometimes. We rush to judgment on other people who are facing impossible situations, you know? So we've seen several movies about a big ship that sinks and there's a lifeboat, and certain people make a choice to throw other people off the boat so that the rest of the people on the boat can survive. And we'll sit back and condemn them. That's terrible. How dare they? They monsters. But if you really think about it, that was an impossible situation there. They're trying to survive. Really, what would you have done? And we're so quick to say, oh, well, I wouldn't have thrown people off the boat. Really? Because I'm thinking maybe you would have. I'm not saying we should or shouldn't have, but maybe we would have. I hope I wouldn't have, but maybe I would have. Anyway, I love movies that are willing to take us to that uncomfortable place and look at these really difficult scenarios and situations and not sugarcoat it, not just make it an obvious black and white issue, but really force us to face it. And I dig that. And when I hear and I read about the synopsis of 5 Days of Memorial, it sounds like it's going to do that, because I've seen a number of stories about what happened in this hospital. And while I can sit back as somebody who's living thousands of miles away from where Katrina happened and say, oh, well, that was right. Oh, and that was wrong. But I'm getting the feeling this is going to be the type of movie that is going to force me to confront what those people confronted and then really ask myself, what would I have done? Because it was an impossible situation. Like, I'm not saying what's right, what's wrong. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying I'm looking forward to a movie that makes me force myself to look at the circumstances these people were actually in and then, you know, maybe hopefully not judge. But anyway, that's just the way I'm kind of looking at it right now. Hey, listen, you know what, folks? There has been a lot of talk about this 50 Shades of Grey movie. Now, with Charlie Hunnam abruptly leaving 50 Shades of Grey, speculation has begun about who will replace him in the leading role. According to The Hollywood Reporter, one main name has jumped up to replace Hunnam, and that is True Blood star Alexander Skarsgard. Skarsgard was last seen on AMC screens in last year's film Battleship, which I'm sure we're all trying to forget. Alexander is the son of actor Stellan Skarsgard, who will next be seen in a few weeks at AMC theaters in Thor: The Dark World. You know, it has to kind of suck, even just a little bit, to be a guy who's a famous TV actor like Alexander Skarsgard and know that your dad is a way better actor and will always be more famous than you and more recognizable. Look, I said this on the show the other day. Charlie Hunnam leaving 50 Shades of Grey was a good thing because everybody was against it. I mean, Charlie Hunnam's fans did not want him in 50 Shades of Grey, and the 50 Shades of Grey fans didn't want Charlie Hunnam. So you ended up having this thing where everybody was against it, and I don't think that the studio or Hunnam were prepared for the kind of backlash they got. Now, we talked about this before too. Warner Brothers and Ben Affleck, they got a lot of backlash too, but they were totally prepared for it. They knew exactly what the feedback would be and what the initial backlash would be, and they were prepared for it. But I don't think they were in the case of 50 Shades of Grey and Charlie Hunnam. So it's a good thing that he backed out. Now, let's move forward. Should a guy like Alexander Skarsgård step in? Well, we know from True Blood, a show which full disclosure, I don't like. I've tried to like it because it's kind of in my wheelhouse of shows that I would like, but I've never found it to be very good. But that's just me. Is this in his wheelhouse? Yeah, because if you watch True Blood, you know he don't mind getting naked and getting filthy. I mean, he'll do the filthy on screen and on camera. He don't mind. And so that, in some regards, that makes him a perfect candidate for 50 Shades of Grey. He's a very good-looking dude. Can't take that away from him. I wish I had a little bits of his handsome. That'd be kind of cool. But overall, I got to tell you, I wouldn't like this casting simply because I don't think Alexander Skarsgård at this point in his career, who knows what he can develop into, but I don't feel that at this point in his career, Alexander Skarsgård is a strong enough actor to lead a film, to carry a film, to be that main guy in a feature role, to carry a high-profile project like 50 Shades of Grey. I'm sure there's a lot of people who disagree with me, and that's totally cool. Like I said, that's just the way I see it. All right, folks, listen. Those of you out there who are horror fans, you may know that a little film is opening in AMC theaters everywhere this week called Carrie with Chloe Grace Moretz. It's a very cool film, and our very own Chrisley Kennedy had a chance to go and sit down and talk to the cast of the film, including Chloe. So I just want to share a little bit of that interview that Chrisley did with Chloe. So here, take a look at this.
Congratulations, of course. Thanks. It was amazing. Following Sissy Spacek, tough? Scary?
was scary, interesting, exciting. I think what was scary was being able to embody a Stephen King, one of his most famous works,
When was the first time you saw Carrie?
When I was 11, I saw it, unbeknownst to my mom. Yeah.
Terrified?
No, I think, it's a different time period. See, I'd already seen Scream by then.
Okay.
So for me, I was going, this is a piece of cake. It's kind of silly. You know what I mean? It just kind of shows you how numb my generation of kids are to shock. Crazy.
I want to talk about your generation of kids because there's some differences in this, Carrie, that are super appreciative for me with bullying. So what about your generation of kids? How are they going to look at this?
I think that it's very relevant, and I think it definitely strikes a chord with a lot of people in the audience, and it makes them feel very vulnerable. Because I think it's interesting because the original piece, by Stephen King was written and published in 1974, and the original movie was made was released in 1976. So it's not that, bullying has just all of a sudden risen up out of the ashes and it's back. It's no, that's been around forever. It's just the fact that now people are actually standing up to it and people are actually fighting back, which is what I find interesting about modern day bullying.
I have to ask about the blood scene. How much fun?
It was a lot of fun. It was very exciting. We did it twice. It was made of water, food thickener, soap, and pigment. So.
Fun to get out of your hair, I'm sure.
Oh, God, no. It was so bad it stained me. Yeah, that's why we can only do 2 takes of it.
You worked with powerhouse of women on this film. Kimberly, Juliana. They were amazing women. So what was it like being with them on set?
It was amazing. Julie is such a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant actor. And to be able to work opposite her was you can't buy that. You can't win that. That's something that is just the most amazing experience you've ever had. And then working with Kim was, absolutely enthralling. Every day I was learning more, and she was pushing me to different places that I've never gone before. So I was very lucky.
Yes, you were. And it was an amazing film. What was your favorite day on set?
I think the entire time filming Julie, I think it was my favorite days because it was like 3 weeks of just she and I in that house doing our entire character almost chronologically. And it was hard. It was really, really grueling, but it was some of the most amazing work I've ever had to do.
Why are AMC Theater horror fans going to love this reincarnation of Carrie?
I think they're really going to love it because it is incredibly exciting, it is action-packed, it is suspenseful, but at the same time, at the heart of the story, it is really about a young girl who is confused and abused and manipulated and wants nothing more than happiness, and she can't get it.
And just a reminder, you can get your theater, showtime, and movie tickets for Carrie, which is opening in AMC theaters everywhere this week by going to www.amctheaters.com. Good job, Chris Lee, on that interview. All right, folks, we've reached that part of the show called Mailbag. Listen, if you've got a topic or a question you would like us to address on the show, you can email us anytime at amcmovietalk@gmail.com. Every day we take 1 or 2 questions out of the mailbag. Today I got 2 of them pulled out here. So let's get to it. The first question today comes to us from WM, who writes, "Your show has become my addiction." Thank you so much, W. I have a question about how studios keep most of their film's content from leaking to the public. There are hundreds upon hundreds of people involved in the production of a movie, from pre-production to on-set filming to post-production and marketing. How are all these involved persons prevented from leaking information about films in this technological day and age? Also, have film leaks ever ruined a movie experience for you? Great question, WN. First of all, let me address the last part of your question there. Has film leaks ever ruined a movie experience for me? Honestly, no. No, really never has. I can think of maybe a couple of examples where they might have. Like, I don't know, like if I knew the end of The Usual Suspects, that might have affected my enjoyment of The Usual Suspects. But honestly, spoilers don't bother me all that much. Why? Well, let's take Titanic for a second, okay? If Titanic wasn't based on a true story and somebody leaked it out to you, hey, by the way, oh my gosh, they don't save everybody. Titanic sinks at the end. And you heard that, you jump up and down and go, spoiler, you just ruined the movie. Well, it is a true story, and we do know that the ship sinks at the end. Does that ruin the movie? No. You see, to me, and it's totally fine for those of you who are more sensitive to spoilers. I get it. We're different, and so things will affect us differently. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. I'm just saying for me personally, that spoilers don't really bother me all that much because it's not so much knowing what happens in a movie. To me, the enjoyment of a movie is watching the telling of the story. Even if I know that the ship sinks at the end, even if I know who Kaiser Soze is, even if I know that Rosebud is a bobsled, even if I know that Vader is Luke's father, even if I know all that going into the movie, it's still, to me, the enjoyment of the movie is watching the telling of the story. Even though I know what happens. I know how Argo ends because it was a real life event. We had to study it in school. But guess what? It was the best movie of the year. I thoroughly enjoyed watching that film because I enjoy the telling of the story. And sometimes I get people really complain a lot to me that, like I said, it's because I'm a little bit different. Because these little details don't really bother me so much. We can talk about how, by the way, I'm making this part up. So don't worry about it if you're looking forward to Thor. I'm making this part up. So I can say, there's a scene in Thor, in the upcoming Thor, where Thor and Loki are talking in a Starbucks. And they're talking over a cup of coffee and talking about this, that, and the other. I swear I would have 10 people email me. Thanks for the spoiler, John. Thanks for spoiling that. I didn't want to know. I just said they were sitting down in a coffee shop. Does that really ruin your movie watching experience? Does that affect your movie watching experience at all? But like I said, you may be one of those people where spoilers really affect you a lot, and that's totally cool. We're just different. That's all. No big deal. But to me, no. I think there are maybe one or two spoilers I can think of, like big, significant, major twists at the end. The end of The Sixth Sense, for example. Maybe if I knew that one specific detail, that big honking elephant detail, the ending of Sixth Sense, maybe that would have affected my viewing experience. Sure. Okay. Maybe same thing of Usual Suspects, knowing who Kaiser Soze is. Okay, that might have affected. But these are big, huge, significant twists that is meant to be not known until the end. So maybe it's a little bit different. But let's get on to the main part of your question, because what you're really asking about is how in today's technology-filled world do we keep leaks, major leaks, from getting out all the time? Because like you said, there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that work on a motion picture. How is somebody not leaking out who's playing this or what happens here or whatever? How is that not happening? The answer, my friend, is one word: fear. Fear will keep the local systems in line. Bonus points if you know where that's from. Fear keeps everybody in line. Why? Because I've been to movie sets. And a lot of film journalists have. And when you go, you have to sign a couple of things called non-disclosure agreements, NDA. That basically NDAs are, you sign these things, and what that basically says is this studio is allowed to destroy you if you reveal anything. They will take your goods, your money, your freedom, your happiness, your soul. They will come after you with the full force of whatever legal reprisals they have at their disposal to destroy you, to set as an example for other potential people who would, reveal their secrets. There's these contracts you got to sign. And people who work on these films, they got to sign them too. And it is just not worth it. It is not worth it. If I'm a gaffer on Thor 2, it is not worth the risk to me to write an email to somebody at Coming Soon and say, hey guys, just so you know, turns out Loki is actually Odin all along. It's not worth it, because when he gets caught, he's done. His career is over. He'll be sued. He'll probably lose his home. I mean, all that kind of stuff will probably befall him. For what? For nothing. It just doesn't make sense. There's no benefit to it. And so, and I like to think too, it's not just fear. I like to think there's a little bit of honor involved as well. Like if a studio is trusting you to work on this film, they're trusting you not to go and blab your mouth. But so really the big thing is fear. And you mentioned in today's technology age, it's so easy to share a secret. Yes. But in the olden days, if I want to share a secret, I can just write a note on a piece of paper and anonymously hand it off to somebody, and somebody. That really can't be traced back to me. But now, forget about it. You're going to email somebody? Guess what? They can find out you emailed it. You send a copy of something to somebody? Guess what? They can trace that now. Because the technology has advanced so much that now they can find out, no problem, who sent that email, who sent that text. We can backward trace it. We can find the IP address. We can do all this kind of stuff. Even if you try to hide it in a science fiction manner behind 18 firewalls, they're going to find you. Because they have to. If people started spilling that stuff out and the studios didn't crush them for doing it, then everybody would start doing it. So I'd like to think there's a little bit of honor involved, but I also think there's a big healthy dose of fear that keeps people from doing it, and it's understandable. All right, last question today, and then we'll wrap up the show. This question comes to us from Logan McCrum, who writes, "Hello, AMC Movie Talk crew. I love the show and have been watching ever since I found you on AMC Theaters Facebook page." Oh, that's awesome. Thanks, man. Anyways, my question is, will there ever be a Wreck-It Ralph 2? I know there was a lot of talk about one after the movie came out, but I haven't heard anything for about a year. Since the movie did really well at the box office and was nominated for Best Animated Picture at the Oscars, how soon, if ever, do you think we will see Wreck-It Ralph 2? You're right, it has been a while. I love Wreck-It Ralph, by the way. Let me go off on that tangent. I love that movie. It should have won Best. I'm forgetting the name of the Pixar film, the girl longer Brave. How Brave won Best Animated Picture over Wreck-It Ralph is completely beyond me. Completely beyond me. I think Wreck-It Ralph easily should have won that award, but that's just me. But fret not, my friend. Wreck-It Ralph 2 is coming. We've talked to the director, and the director is absolutely, they're committed to making Wreck-It Ralph 2. Look, the film was a financial success, it was a critic success, and it was a fan success. It was the trifecta. They're absolutely making Wreck-It Ralph 2. And we know that the director has been talking about it. He even said he's going to put Mario into it a little bit, and he may actually play a little bit of a significant role in the film. We'll have to see how that all pans out. I'm not really sure. But they loved making that movie. Everybody involved with it loved it, and it was a great payday for the studio. The fans liked it. They're definitely doing it. Now, I have no problem if they decide to make a film like, say, I don't know, next 5 months. That they're going to rush into it and make Wreck-It Ralph 2 in the next 5 months. But I also have no problem if they decide they want to make Wreck-It Ralph 2 come out in like 2.5 years. There's no rush. There's simply no rush in doing it. It's because, we don't have to worry about John C. Reilly getting too old to play Wreck-It Ralph. He's just the voice. I mean, so take your time. Doesn't really matter. Come out in 6 months. That's great. I'll be happy. Bring it out in 2 years. That's fine. I'll be happy. They are working on it, though, and worry not. There is absolutely, without any shadow of a doubt, going to be a Wreck-It Ralph 2. Well, folks, that will do it for me. Again, apologies for the fact that you're not getting the original show, that this isn't the show that we recorded this morning in the studio, and that all you're left with is me instead of the beautiful Amy Rose, Chrysalie, and Aaron. And instead you get me. But thanks for joining me, guys, and for your patience. We will be back in studio again tomorrow. Everything will be set right. We will iron out the technical glitches. So until next time, my name is John Campia. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, just at John Campia. So I am John Campia for AMC Movie News, and until next time, bye-bye.